Welcome to the Survivor to Thriver show with your happiness expert, Samia Bano. Are you a survivor of abuse or other trauma? Are you tired of feeling stuck, silent, and stressed all the time? This is the podcast people from all over the world join in to learn exactly how to stop suffering and start living with more inner peace and joy. Are you ready to eliminate suffering from your life and transform from a survivor to thriver? Then congratulations, you are in the right place. Let's get started. Hey, welcome back to the Survivor to Thriver show. Yesterday, I left off at a very critical place, right? Because yesterday, not only did we talk about two huge principles that are part of the technology of success, part of how you can really accelerate on your way, on your journey to inner peace and thriving in your life. But I was also sharing with you one of the biggest mistakes that we make, that I made in my life that really slowed me down, right? And I don't want you to be making that mistake. So I'm going to tell you, like, seriously, just learn from me, learn from my experience. This is wisdom that I acquired in my life the hard way. You don't have to. You can learn from my experience. Don't make the mistake that I did. Okay? And the mistake was that even as I made the commitment to learn everything that I could and that I needed to help myself heal and achieve inner peace, and I even made the commitment and started to apply that learning in my life, because I was still in the grips of my fear, I was trying to do it alone. Okay? I did not reach out to a real living live person who could talk back to me and help me through the process of applying what I was learning in my life, who could guide me when I hit a hurdle on my way and I couldn't figure out how to get around it on my own, or it was taking me a long time. Like I was forced to so many times slow down to a crawl, on my way, because I hit these hurdles and I could not figure out how to get past them. So it's critically important that not only do you engage in the learning process, in the context of learning through books and just taking classes and things like that, which I had started doing, but that you also engage with real live people who have been there and done that, who can answer your questions. Okay, so just a quick update and putting things back in context of what was happening in my life. So if you remember, my family had moved from the Middle East to Pakistan, right? And it ended up being that we stayed in Pakistan for 3 years. We had gone there with the intention of just being there for the first maybe a few months, but it ended up that we had to stay there for 3 years. At the end of those 3 years, finally, my parents had figured out a solution for how our family could get back together. Because all this time, we had been separated from my dad. He was an Indian, so he couldn't really come to Pakistan. It's just part of the political tensions and dramas that go on between India and Pakistan, that as an Indian, he wasn't being allowed to come to Pakistan. And we couldn't really go back to the Middle East, not to live there. I mean, like my sister and I actually went back once for a 2-week vacation back to see, so we could see my dad. But my brother couldn't go back, my mom couldn't go back, and it was just, part of the complications in life that we were dealing with. But finally, my parents figured out how we could, come together as a family, and the solution was that we were going to immigrate to America. So actually, my dad had already left for America, and he had been in America for about 1 year. Figuring things out in America, or making the arrangements that needed to be made so that he could bring the rest of us over and join him. So finally, at the end of these 3 years of separation, we packed our bags, and my mom and my brother and sister and myself, we flew over to America to start our life here in California. And it was another huge shift for me. I would say of all the moves that I made, this was the source of the biggest culture shock in many ways, and the biggest changes in terms of my lifestyle and my outlook, my beliefs and my values. I have experienced the biggest shifts in all these areas since moving to America. And by that time I was almost 18 years old. So, it's a time for growth and anyway, and for a lot of change to be happening anyway. So it was just a very ripe time in my life for me to experience a lot of growth and change. And, just looking back, I feel, the divine grace and divine blessings working in my life, because when I was in Pakistan, it was just the right time for me to be in Pakistan, because that's where I was able to easily connect and discover my faith, and really become grounded in the practice of my faith. And that probably would not have happened as effectively and easily if I had been in America or even in the Middle East, at that point in time, for a lot of different reasons. But now I was ready, to move on to the next phase of my learning. And that was, for me, it was all about, once I got to America, for the first year, actually, that we were in America, things moved kind of slow, because I was once again forced to be out of school for almost 2 years, and in that time but it was good thing, really, because I needed that time to figure things out. Like when I came to America, I was still stuck in my silence. I was still very shy and introverted, and had a very difficult time making friends. So I pretty much spent all my time really hanging out with my family, and friends, and just taking tiny little steps out into the wider American community, and just trying to figure things out about how things in America worked, and so on and so forth. So it was fine that time was slow. It actually helped me to go to start the journey of being in America slowly, because once I started college in the fall of 2001, I mean, things started to really move fast, because guess what happened 2 weeks into my first semester in college in America. That's right. It was 2001. It was September. September 11th happened, is what happened, right? And here I was, somebody who was, who not only identified as Muslim, but who was very easily recognizable as a Muslim because I chose to dress in the traditional Islamic way, and I chose to wear the headscarf in the traditional way. So I was very easily recognizable as a Muslim, and I became a target. I suddenly found myself in the spotlight, and I was not allowed to hide anymore. I'd spent the last 12 years of my life hiding and trying to, have people just ignore me so I could just do my thing, and focus on learning and trying to heal myself. But now I was not allowed to hide anymore. I had the weirdest experience. I mean, it felt weird to me at that time, of these just random strangers coming up to me and asking me questions and wanting me to explain about, Islam and Muslims and terrorists and why I hated America, or did I hate America, and what I thought about the war, and did I support it, didn't I support it, why did or didn't I do this? It was an amazingly crazy time. And at the same time, having here's a cool thing. When I was living, and I'm still living in LA, okay, in Southern California. It's a pretty liberal place. It's a place where people are used to seeing diversity of cultures and religions and so forth. So for the most part, most of the encounters that I had were people were just curious, and they were mostly very respectful, and they just wanted to learn and they wanted to understand. But even so, there were certain times when I was faced with people who weren't so nice and who didn't just want to learn, who in fact came with ill intentions, and they were targeting me with hate and fear, right? I had an experience where I got on the bus to go to college for my classes, and this one person started screaming and shouting about how they refused to travel on the same bus as a terrorist. And the good news for me was that our bus driver stood up for me and for my right to be on that bus. And that other person who was screaming and shouting about me being a terrorist was asked to leave the bus, and they did. And so I was able to continue on my way and arrive on campus safely. But it was like one of the very first times that I had somebody react to me that way, and it scared me, and it just rattled me and shook me. And so this wasn't, by the way, the only time something like this happened to me. I had incidents like this happen multiple times afterwards, in different environments and so forth. So it was a scary time, and things started moving really fast at all kinds of different levels. And the main thing that happened for me was that I was forced to come out of my shell. I was no longer allowed to hide. And again, now as I look back, I see that as a great blessing. It was like, the universe knew I was ready to move on, and I wasn't moving on. I wasn't, doing what I really, really needed to do. So it forced me into a situation, into a circumstance where I had to then do what I needed to do, which was reach out for help and support and find somebody that I could talk to about what had happened to me as a child, as a survivor of child sexual abuse, and begin to receive that advice and that feedback and that help and support from that real live person. Okay, so We're running out of time again for this episode. So I'm going to go ahead, wrap up right here once again, and we'll pick up where we left off tomorrow. In the meanwhile, I wish you lots of peace and joy, and just a reminder that I love your feedback. I love to hear from you. So just go to my website at www.academyofthriving.com. And from our contact us page, you will see how you can connect with me. All right.